Iron Lung might be one of the strangest games I've played in a long time. It's a tiny horror submarine, a cramped metal coffin, and somehow it still has more hidden out of bounds than you'd probably expect. And if you are into out of bounds secrets, or enjoy seeing what happens behind the scenes of video games, I've plenty more videos you could dive into after this one. For anyone new to the game, let me explain Iron Lung real quick. Imagine a game where you can barely move or see the world around you, and your toolset is basically forward, backward, spinning a small circle, and a camera attached to the front of the sub. That's it, that's the game. Take photos at certain coordinates of the nightmare soup outside for research, and hope it doesn't become a metal tomb. Anyway, let's dive into this one, literally, starting with the title screen. You're welcomed by an entire ocean of blood, which is always a nice way to kick off a video game. Honestly, there isn't a lot hiding off camera here, but if you've ever wondered what lurks just outside the frame, well, here you go. Now, the whole game takes place inside a tiny metal sub, so after moving the camera out of bounds, I found the usual bits, some stretched out assets and a few extra details you never normally see. But the only genuinely interesting thing was a neat little developer trick, a big black texture used as a just in case the player sees through a crack safety blanket. Professional, yes. Useful for making this video? On its own, not entirely. So there I was drifting the camera around in what looked like a pure empty void, and at this point I figured, oh cool, that's it, video over, thanks for watching. But then something clicked. How does the onboard camera actually work? Where are the images on the screen even coming from? If the onboard camera was only allowed to trigger at exact coordinates and always produce the same shot, you'd assume it was just pulling pre-rendered stills from the game files. But you can take a photo at any time, and even the tiniest nudge of your position changes the image. Which means these must be real-time 3D renders of whatever is happening somewhere out there in the void. So naturally, I had to figure out what exactly was lurking out there, but to actually see anything, I needed to make a few tweaks. First up, visibility. If something was hiding out there, I needed it to stand out from the endless darkness. Swapping the solid background for a default sky dome instantly gave the game a visible backdrop. I messed with the culling mask next, which did absolutely nothing on its own, but adjusting the far plane clip finally paid off. That is when I struck gold. The map appeared, the real environment behind all those images. It still needed a few tweaks, but there it was, hiding out in the void. After adding my own light source to the free camera, everything finally popped into view, and exploring the map like this, honestly, it was fascinating and creepy. Kind of like wandering through a haunted museum exhibit that was never meant to be lit up. Even with all of that, the out of bounds view still wasn't perfect. A lot of the environment only pops in when the camera gets close, probably an intentional developer choice so the player can't see too far into the murky distance. So to get a proper look, I had to tweak things up even more. Longer draw distance, better lighting, the whole works. With a full light source and the whole map fully loaded at any distance, I could explore the entire map, every ridge, trench and creepy corner, way more easily. Now, this game is strange and spooky for a lot of reasons, but out of bounds, there was only one thing that really stood out. These things, a cluster of tall, vertical rock formations or bones just standing here. They look almost identical to the ones you find at the first photo site, but these are perched on top of the trench walls in a completely inaccessible part of the map. which makes it extra weird that they're only in this one spot. Were they placed accidentally, leftover assets from early development, props that were duplicated and moved but never cleaned up? I have no idea, but it's the one genuine oddity hiding out in the darkness. Now that we've uncovered the map and taken a quick look around, I wanted to talk about some of the in-game sequences and take a peek at what is actually happening behind the scenes when they occur. In a recent update, the game added a few cheats that you can input via a terminal, and one of them lets you see through the front porthole. I guess it's not too surprising that this is useful, since it gives you a constant view of what you would normally see only when activating the camera. Though of course, it goes without saying that cheats like this are best saved for after you've had a playthrough of the game properly. That being said, it was great for this video because it helped me pinpoint the submarine's position within the map, thanks to it adding its own light source out there in the darkness. It is pretty lonely out there, so here is an example of how it looks from within the map, something we're definitely not supposed to see during normal gameplay. At the fourth photo spot, when you snap a picture of the anomaly, we suddenly get this creepy face appearing in the background. Then if you try and see it again, it's gone. Naturally, I wanted to know how this was done and what it looked like from within the map. So in case you were curious too, here it is. Like so many things in this game, it is a really simple design, but incredibly effective. Interestingly, the monster is actually present here from the very start of the game. Once you press the onboard camera for the second time, it then disappears, only to reappear later, which I will get to shortly. The star-shaped anomaly known as Void makes the submarine look as though it's warping as you move towards it, though this effect is applied to the camera rather than the sub model itself. If I switch between the free camera and the player camera, you can clearly see the difference. It is another example of a simple yet effective developer trick. Probably the most memorable event, other than the end, is when the monster eye appears on the onboard camera. If you do use the cheat and have the porthole hatch open, it appears here too, and there is a couple of differences to how this has an effect on the eye. Here's what it looks like from within the map. If the porthole is closed and you're using just the onboard camera, as would be under normal circumstances, the image quickly appears, then gets cast to the camera monitor screen before disappearing again. If you do have the porthole open, the image will stay here until you use the onboard camera, then it disappears as normal. Interestingly, when seeing the full image, as you can't normally see all of it, we can find these 3 dots within a circle in the top left corner. This seems to be some sort of UI that's embedded within the image, probably from when the snapshot of the image was taken and then used within the game. I'm not 100% sure which UI or platform this is from though. Towards the end, the sub starts to fill with blood, adding to the impending doom. You may have noticed that the blood was there at the start of the video. It sits just below the sub and then rises once hitting the necessary trigger. Alright, so the final thing I want to show in this one is the tragic end. It certainly caught me off guard and it all happened so quickly. Here it is from an overhead view, and in slow motion you can see how the monster spawns in just behind the blood. Now whilst normally there's a blackout and the ending screens appear, if we remove these we can continue watching the action, and the funny thing is the monster doesn't just stop once it's eaten the player. It continues to make its way through the void, and it continues and continues, until ultimately it has to stop because the title sequence loads. Which kind of makes me wonder, where would it have ended up?